the nerds. This is for the brainiacs. This what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back. You ain't gonna touch me. You not gonna do nothing. You are not above me. I bet you wish you was me. I know it. I know.
What is poppin', everybody? And welcome back to another special episode of the Only Friends podcast. Well, you know, it's me and Mr. Bracelet Hunt himself. He's on the hunt. It's Matthew Hunt. What is poppin'?
What's up, Connie?
Ain't shit, just chilling.
I'm happy to be here.
We're happy to have you, man.
Yeah.
How's the high feeling?
It's pretty good. I mean, it obviously always sucks to get 7th in a tournament. Like 7th never feels good in that sense, but yeah, I'm good.
They got to keep you on the hunt.
Exactly.
7th, it's the only way you're Bracelet Hunt.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, if they actually gave me a bracelet, I'd have to change my screen name.
It's
you know,
true.
So.
7th is like it's just like you're so close to the money, to like actual real big money, but you're just not there.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
you need like that top third. Like if you get third, you're like, God, that sucked. But at least I get this nice chunk
I
of
would have
change.
liked 6 figures. Like I would have liked top 4 or 5.
Right,
you know,
yeah,
but you know, it is what it is. It's tournament poker. It's sick.
Berkey loves like 6 and 3rds. Right, Berk?
That's not true. It's not true at all.
Oh, you just keep getting them. I thought
That's also not true.
Oh,
I'll have you know,
He doesn't have a third.
I have plenty of thirds.
he has a lot of 3rds.
many
What are you talking
thirds.
about?
He doesn't have a lot of seconds.
I have no seconds,
Yeah.
no firsts. I have no 9ths, no 8ths, 1 7th, and then everything else is 5th through 3rd.
Wow.
So I have like 10 5th through 3rd.
So how many WSOP specifically final tables do you
Oh, I'm
still have?
only talking about WSOP.
Okay, so how many total final tables do you have?
With online, I think I have 12 or 13.
Oh wow, I thought it was like 7 or 8. I thought I was catching you, but I've got a long way to go.
I think I have like 9 live.
How many do you have?
I have 2 live and 3 online.
Yeah, I have 3 on 3 or 4 online. I can't recall.
Wow.
And then I have, I think, 8 or 9 live.
Yeah, you went back to back one year.
Back to back. Yeah, that was the good year. That was the COVID year when all of the events were fucking huge.
I mean, they still kind of are.
No,
Yeah.
I went back to back and got, I think I got 4th and 6th, and it totaled like 180K or 170K, which is pretty. It was like over 200 to first.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, like they were the size of small no limit fields live.
Brian, do you have any?
I do not, fortunately.
Tice, what about you?
We will.
Yeah,
get
I have
there,
a second.
Second online.
Landon and Hunt are the turbo champions.
I have a
they both have
second.
seconds.
Yeah, I have a second online in the 1K.
If you get second, you're not a champion.
Speak for yourself. That's the podium for me.
Yeah, you gotta cue the meme
Hey, Connie.
of like the
What's
metal,
that?
the metal biting.
The champagne guy.
Yeah.
Grappa.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for asking, Connie. Yeah, I have a 14th or 15th, something like
Oh, yes, you do. Last year online, right? The
That's right.
500?
that. Yes, sir.
Oh, man. I think I have
You have at least one.
2. Oh, if
At
you,
least 2, right?
if you count the Deuce the 7th, I got 9th.
I thought you had one online.
I did.
That's what I was talking
So-
about.
Okay, so you
I have 3, I think.
2 or 3.
Does Deuce to 7 count or is it unofficial final table?
Well, I don't give a fuck.
Was
you
there
know?
one table remaining?
Yes.
Okay, then it counts.
Yeah, that ain't
All right.
The unofficial counts.
Unofficial counts. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
So Asher final table domain.
If you get 10.
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually might be upping my total by 1 because I'm counting a faux unofficial one. We were just talking about this story off air. We might as well bring it up because it's relevant. So I guess in yesterday's 6 max, and it seems like this only happens in 6 max, which sort of makes sense because prior to the unofficial final table of 7, you're playing, 4-handed on each table. Huni ran into a weird spot where his payout kind of got well, they made a ruling. Let's put it that
So
way.
basically,
You tell the story.
Yeah, so basically 8th was 50K and 7th was 67K, I believe.
Okay.
And when they got to 8-handed, Huni asked the floor, hey, are we going hand for hand? And the floor said, no, we don't do hand for hand here. So they got into a situation where, Huni puts in 80% of his chips and finds out that there's another guy all in at the other table.
Okay.
So it turned into an old Western standoff, it seems. And, it's just
Right,
like,
because there's no shot clocks.
there's no shot clocks or
Right.
anything. So, there's just 2 guys standing there with guns drawn.
So they're both just both have 80% of their chips in the middle, waiting for the other one to make a decision.
basically. And you know, and eventually, floor was called. They called Jack, and basically he ruled that it was going to be whoever has the lowest amount of chips. If they both were to bust that hand.
Right, and that's fine, I guess. It's a ruling.
It's a ruling.
Whether it's a good one or not, I guess, is to be determined. But that's not the rule, right? That's
not the issue.
Well, it's not the issue, but it's also not the rule. The only time that you do that, where the lower chip denomination gets the worst place, is if it two bust outs at the same table, right? Yeah. So usually, if you're dealing with a bubble situation where you'd be hand for hand in this situation, it would be they would split the bubble.
If they were to both get knocked out that hand. Yes.
Correct. If they were both to get knocked out, they would split. They won't do that here, though, because WSOP doesn't facilitate any sort of ICM chops or anything like that. So they won't split two places. And coincidentally, when you were telling this story, I recalled that this exact thing happened to me in 2021. I went deep in the 10K 6 max with 8 left. I was on the main stage, and the side feature off like the old Thunderdome at the Rio had the other table. And for whatever reason, the floor had just vacated our tournament. I don't know where anybody
That's only
went.
a 10K 6 max, no worries.
That happened to me yesterday because there was so many final tables yesterday, 5 final tables in one day.
Yeah.
We literally had a time where someone got clocked and it was like, where's the floor?
Right.
We can't get a floor over here. And so the guy got like an extra minute to make his decision because the floor was somewhere else and had to like walk over. Like it was ridiculous.
Yeah, I think there was like 4 going on simultaneously at this point, or like 3 and 1 was like down to 2 tables.
Yeah,
or something.
there's the 600, the 1500, the 3K, and one more, I think.
And ours was obviously like one of the least important ones because it was just a 1500. So we were just in this position where people were getting clocked and just getting way more time than they should have gotten because the floor wasn't there and had to be like shouted at from like the opposite side of the room. You know, it was
and
crazy.
coincidentally, like when ours was happening, it was actually the biggest one, but we didn't have the biggest names. I think Madisal was at like a 1500 final table or whatever. Anyway, there's no floor to be found.
Yeah, Bob is running all 3.
Yes, correct.
There's one TD in the room.
But so Bob was running multiple final tables when I was doing this, but he wasn't our TD. There was another TD, an older guy that I didn't recognize. So they did have multiple TDs, but for whatever reason, the TD just vacates our area, right? So we both bust simultaneously. And we walk up to the podium, and we're waiting for the TD to come back and give us our payout slips. So like 5 minutes later, he comes back, and he goes, "Who busted first?" And we just look and shrug. We don't fucking know, man. That's not our job.
And he goes, right now.
He goes, "Okay," and just hands us each a ticket. So we go to the window, assuming that we chop 7th and 8th place money, and we explain to the woman running the payouts what happened. And she goes, "We don't do that here."
Yeah.
And we're like, "Well, what the fuck else are you gonna do? Like, this is insane." So they call Charlie, and he comes and he goes, "Look, I'm gonna be straight with you guys. We're not chopping these places. One of you has to get 8th, and one of you has to get 7th." We're like, "How the hell are you gonna make that decision?" He goes, "Well, we're going to go back and we're going to review the tape. And whichever one of you busted first is going to get 8th place." And I'm thinking like, okay, first of all, this is fucking insanity because we could have just waited each other out forever if we knew previously that this was going to be the ruling.
Yeah.
And secondly, like, neither of us made decisions predicated off the fact that time was going to be what dictated where we finished.
And how do they not have hand for hand?
It's insane. Honestly, it's because they won't facilitate a chop. But I mean, you could just do what Jack did and like, you know, go hand for hand, and whichever the shorter stack is gets the worst place.
Yeah. Otherwise, you just sit there and wait because why wouldn't you?
Right. Right. Of course. Yeah. So we're like, okay, well, how long is that going to take? Because there was a 3 million guarantee at the win that we were trying to max late reg. He goes, "I don't know. It could be upwards of 4 hours." I just look at this kid. I go, "Bro, like,
we gotta
can
get
we
out
just
of here.
split this?" And he's like, "Yeah, like, I'll take the higher positioning because I'm from a tax treaty country." And I was like, "Okay, great." So we both just like, I take 8th, he takes 7th, and we go cash out, and then he just hands me like the 20K difference or whatever it is. It's like, Jesus, man, so lucky that this is a high stakes tournament where
People are reasonable.
I mean, I didn't even know this kid. I just he basically gave me a handful of names that would hard vouch for him, and I was like, yeah, like you seem like you're a high stakes reg, like whatever, let's just do the deal. But imagine if this is like a 1500 and I'm playing Joe from Montana, who like has never final tabled before.
Easy on the guy from Montana. that's Dave from Montana.
It's
not Joe.
Not Joe.
But yeah, like obviously this is certainly one of those like small issues that goes overlooked until it becomes apparent, like until you're in the spot. But for like guys like Jack, like they run into this year in and year out. I think you just forget about it. Like every time it happens, and then you move on, and then you forget. It's like, it just seems like better procedures should be put in place for this type of stuff.
Well, like, what do you even do if it's not you in that spot and it's somebody that is like a wreck?
Snap clock. Oh, you mean like
you both bust at the same time?
Yeah.
Right. They're not gonna know what to do.
He says, "Yeah, let's look at the footage. It'll take 4 hours." And guy says, "Oh, like we can just make this deal." It's like, I don't want to make this deal. I don't know you.
Right.
Well,
imagine that happens in like the Gladiator, right? Like imagine someone's playing a $300 event. It's like their first WSOP event, and they go super deep and they cash for like 50K. Imagine they're in that spot now. Like that person is going to get completely fucked over because they don't know what to do. They're not familiar with it. There has to be a procedure.
Not only that, I mean, they're just going to wait the 4 hours for the tape.
Yeah.
But now they're subject to variance.
Right.
Of just like, oh, did I put my chips in too fast?
Yeah.
Like, did I not properly tank my way out of this?
And then you're back to the situation where like people are getting rewarded for just wasting everybody's time by taking longer and longer and longer over every single decision. Like it's kind of absurd.
Speaking of which, we were talking a little bit via chat about the parallels between this 1500 run you had and the 2500 final table I made last year.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's wild how identical it is. But the thing that sticks out to me, a couple like clear details that overlapped. We both kind of captured the chip lead midway through day 2 and didn't relinquish until 12 or 11 left, something like that. Sorry, I forget his name.
Santiago Planta.
Yeah,
Planta.
got 6th in both of these events.
That's the wildest thing to be like the same guy getting 6th in both events. Is so unlikely.
The guy's the GOAT, honestly.
He really is
the GOAT. I love him.
He was really fun. He played great. Like I was really happy to have him at the table.
Yeah, I agree. The thing I really want to talk about, though, and you could speak to it because it's a lot fresher in your mind, but I remember how fucking mad I was. I must have called clock. No fewer. And this started on day 2. I clocked 5 people on the bubble. Like, the floor kept walking away. I go, just stand here, please. And she was like getting mad at me. I'm like, this is not my fault.
Yeah.
You're the one who doesn't have a shot clock. Now fucking stand here because this guy is taking 5 minutes.
100%. I think I clocked 2 people, and I think 2 other separate times I said, I'm going to clock you in another 20 seconds. Like, you've got 20 seconds, then I clock you or whatever. Because there was a kid who was doing that thing that people do that's become cool now, even though they don't know why they're doing it, where they like jam pre in a situation where
they leave a chip behind.
Yeah, they leave a chip behind. This kid was going everything but 5K. He was declaring everything but 5K every time he went all in.
I remember Sean Winter did that in Triton, where he's like everything but 25K.
Yeah.
So this isn't even a number.
This kid Clyde, whatever his name is, was doing this, and he was doing it in spots where like there's no pay jump, right? So like there's literally no strategic reason to do it, and sometimes he would do it and then he would just like snap, call it off or whatever, and sometimes he would do it and then he would wait. But there was one time where he did it and he literally like I called and then he had 1 chip behind and I was in the small blind, so I just like bet 1 chip on the flop to put him all in, and he like waited, like he waited and was like trying to see what was going on at the other table and things like that, and you just have to find a way to make this not a part of the game, because it can't be the case that people are able to benefit and make money by literally not playing poker. Like you can't have a poker tournament be any kind of like skill game when there's a benefit to sitting there with everybody at the table looking at you and waiting for you to do something, and you're making money from doing that. It's just completely contrary to the spirit of any kind of competition.
Brian was on the rail for mine. Do you remember what happened with 11 left in my event?
I was drinking.
Yeah. Okay, so
maybe
his memory's a little bit fuzzy.
Well, I knew it took so long. That's why I got so drunk.
Right.
It's like, so I should have had 5 or 6 less
I had
beers.
a commanding chip lead. I had like well over 100 big blinds, very similar to you. And it just took forever to get from 13 down to 10.
No, I do remember that. Yeah.
But in the process, one of the big reasons why it took forever was the other table, the one I wasn't at, had 4 short stacks, and they were colluding to tank.
Yeah.
And the other 2 people at the table or whatever didn't care.
This is literally exactly what happened yesterday. My table had more chips at it. The other table,
We had all the chips.
Yeah.
We had 1 through 6 at our table,
Right.
and then 7 through 11 was at the other table.
Yeah. So at my table, the whole tournament, there was 51 million chips in play.
Yeah.
I think my table had 30 or 32 million of them, something like that.
Yep.
And the other table was all short stacks. Nobody was busting. Short stacks kept doubling up. Everybody at my table was taking 20, 30 seconds on every single decision. Because everybody had like 20, it was like between like 12 and 28 big blinds, and I had like 60 plus.
Yep.
Everybody at the other table was playing super slow, like we were playing way fewer hands per level, and that's like directly everybody in the event basically colluding to just steal money from me.
Exactly.
Like, that's literally what's happening.
It's funny, but it's absolutely true, and that's 100% what happened to me as well. And I begged the floor, begged him, pleaded to go hand for hand. I tried to explain it as best I could as to like what kind of thievery was taking place. And they have precedent for this. They do this in other big events like the main. So when there's like 3 or 4 tables left in the main, if one table is like stalling relentlessly, they'll go hand for hand. It's the necessary thing to do if you're not going to implement a shot clock.
Yeah.
This floor wanted nothing to do with it. Just absolutely nothing. And I was just like, okay, then I'm going to keep calling clock. And the unfortunate thing was I'm clocking people at my table because I can't clock people at the other fucking table.
Right.
Yeah, I would have been clocking the other table if I could. Trust me, like,
Yeah.
And there was other stuff, like there was a hand that I played against a guy where it was like some guy who's like I don't know, like some ACR streamer or something. Like his first name is Rocco something. I forget his last name, but like he was tanking a lot. He was egregious, just like a lot of other people were. And there was a hand where I opened the button into his big blind. He had like 15 bigs or something. He tanks facing my open. I clock him, and then as soon as I clock him, he then calls, and he actually said like. He basically said something, I forget exactly what it was, but he implied that he was only defending the big blind so that he could waste more time.
Right.
And then tank on the flop.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
like he tanks on the flop, and then as it gets to the point where I'm like looking at him as if it's like I'm about to clock you, he then checks.
Wow, you're so much more generous than me. If somebody
Yeah.
said that to me, I would give him exactly 5 seconds.
Yeah,
post.
I mean, I honestly, I probably should have done, but like
So British.
Yeah, exactly. he tanks, he checks. I snap, like, bet 1 big blind. He tanks again. He calls. Like, turn is like, I don't even remember. The board was like ace, queen, deuce, king or something. He checks. I bet again. And then he tanks. And then it gets to the point where I'm, like, about to clock him. And just as, like, I feel like he's kind of had an instinct of, like, how long it was going to take me to clock him. And then just as I was about to clock him again, he, like, finally folds. And it's like, if you're getting to the point where people are literally defending the big blind specifically so they have the opportunity to waste more time, like you're massively reducing the extent to which this is actually a skill game to any significant degree. And I can guarantee you, if there had been a rec player at that table who was in their first like WSOP deep run experience or something like that, it's going to completely ruin the experience for them.
Yeah.
And it's going to completely disincentivize them from playing tournaments like that in the future, because they know if they get deep in it, the guys who are going to make more money are the guys who are willing to just sit there and have everybody looking at them for 2 minutes while they do absolutely nothing. Like, there has to be some way to fix this.
I hate to say it. I know that I'm like the wet blanket when it comes to MTTs and stuff like that from this podcast. But like, truth of the matter is, like, I grew up truly loving tournament poker. It really is that chase of the high of finishing first, and getting rewarded with his. The reason why I kind of fell out of favor initially was because the big scores weren't that much bigger than what I was capable of having on a good day in cash. So like, you're not really chasing the same dream anymore, and that's fine. Like, you don't need me in that pool, but I still revisit it for fun over and over again, and I have less and less fun every single time I show up because of these antics. Like, the way the structure is currently set up. And, you know, we talk about this every single summer, and for whatever reason, nobody's really willing to acknowledge how big of a problem it is. You make more money. Almost everyone in the field, barring the top 5%, maybe even less.
Probably
Might even be
less.
like the top 2%.
Yeah.
You make more money by not playing hands. Period.
That's why people late reg.
Yeah.
That's why people max late reg and just take time.
Right.
I mean, yeah, but at least they're taking on variance, right? Like you're punishing them a little bit by like putting them in there with 10 big blinds,
And
but
then win it all in, basically.
right.
Yeah.
But when you add the layer of they can just take all of your time away, those of you that have been here from the start, that have accumulated a stack, they're going to take all the value of that stack away by not allowing you to be dealt in any longer.
I mean, this is the nature of online tournaments as well, especially on the bigger sites and like bigger field tournaments, is this influx of max late registering. So the way that it's kind of being combated is through PKOs.
Yeah.
Because the later you register in a PKO, the more you get wrecked for
Right.
it.
Yeah.
But in vanilla tournaments, for a freeze out, like the first best time to register is like right at the start. The second best time is at the very last second.
Yep.
So in that case, there has to probably be something along the lines of making max late reg be less than, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
make it earlier in the day
Yep.
type thing. So you have to be there with some more playability.
But that shortens prize pools.
Yeah.
It also
you
doesn't-
have to give something up.
Yeah.
There like.
But does
there-
it though? Because the same people that max would play anyways.
Yeah, I think what it comes down to is there has to be. I'm not enough of a math whiz to figure this out, but there has to be a way of creating an incentive to just not slow down play. Like there has to be a way to make it such that players who actually have all the chips and who have the chip lead don't end up losing EV to the rest of the field just by virtue of the rest of the field mutually agreeing to play as few hands as possible in order to neutralize the effect of one player having
Honestly,
a lot of chips.
I've been on this train for a while, and I think that it's. I thought maybe it's practically difficult to implement, but maybe not. I think once you get into the money of the tournament, if you're not willing to introduce a shot clock and a short one at that, every table should just be going number of hands.
Yeah, like every level should be X number of hands.
Yeah.
Like I honestly think that would
And then
actually
just have
be,
staggering breaks.
this is the kind of thing that I've been thinking about for a while. That, excuse me, if you had every level is X number of hands once you get into the money, or even once you get close to the bubble, like once you get down to like
Yeah.
a quarter of the field or
Yeah,
something, right? Every level is X number of hands. You now actually incentivize the opposite. You incentivize fast play, because if you said we're only going to start the next level once every table has finished the level, what now happens is if you actually play faster, you get more breaks.
Right.
You get more opportunity to just like chill while the rest of the tables finish out the previous level.
Yeah.
The only implementation issue is making sure that the count of number of hands is accurate, but that shouldn't be that complicated when we have technology
Yeah,
available.
yeah,
to
What
do it.
of
happens
course.
when people at a table bust? Like, what if 3 people at the same table bust? Who gets moved? Does people with the same amount of hands played? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's it does become difficult to like.
Right. Yeah. So you already played. You've already played
there's
8
just-
hands, and now you.
Right, but there's
Yeah.
just variance to that.
Yeah,
it's like getting
like,
moved into the big blind.
Sure, but at the same time, like some tables are 4-ring 9, the other table has 6. And you
No,
just have to deal with it.
no. You're not seeing what I'm saying. You would still fill in the tables.
Yeah.
It would just be variance as to whether or not you get to play more or fewer hands.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
sure.
Because that's the thing. Like it's already variance as to where you get moved and stuff like that. Like it's just an added element that you have to just kind of deal with. And I
Yeah,
think
so
that's
maybe you
fine.
already played 6 hands and now you go to a table that has 6 hands left to play.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's
Yeah.
annoying. I have to play 12
Right.
instead of 10
But it's
or
a bit
9
like
or
it's
whatever.
just a bit like getting moved into the big blind twice in 3
Exactly,
hands.
yeah.
Or
Exactly,
something.
yeah.
Like
It
it
just
just
happens.
sucks.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm obviously here for it. I also think that maybe like final 2 tables, hand for hand, instead of being 2 minutes removed from the shot clock, goes to 1 minute. Right? Because people, I've seen this happen in the Florida 25K like a year and a half ago. And
Yeah.
it's going to happen all the time. Hand for hand just makes people realize, okay, I can't tank anymore.
Yeah.
It's just the answer. It just has to be the answer.
Right, but you can only do that for so long.
Sure. I mean, like at the very end of a
For what
tournament,
it's worth,
right?
also like hand for hand is effectively what we're suggesting.
Sure.
We're just allowing a cluster of hands to take place
Right.
instead of one collective group hand.
They did this for a year or two in the main event where like hand for hand was like 10 hands. You play 10 hands, you play like a round. Or it was like 9 hands. You play a round and then you'd stop.
I do vaguely remember that.
They did that
but
for-
I think
Yeah.
they
Orbit-
did it
Orbit-
during the soft bubble.
Orbit
Maybe
for
it was.
orbit,
Maybe
basically.
Yeah,
it was-
it was
yeah.
orbit
Yeah.
for orbit, but I think
Right.
they did it during a soft bubble when we were like 50 out of the money.
I actually in the Bahamas, I spoke to one of the PokerStars floor guys about whether or not they had considered doing that orbit for orbit,
Yeah.
like at PSPC and things like that. And his reply was basically that it's more logistically complicated than it seems and isn't really feasible. And I kind of get it, but at the same time, it just feels like the issue is becoming so big at this point that it might be worth trying to figure out a way to make it less complicated, just so that you can stop this problem happening.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we can button this up with just like some final thoughts. But personally, as somebody that I feel like leans a little bit more rec than pro in these types of events or just tournaments in general, right? Like my desire to play is much closer to the recreational side of things than the professional side.
The fun factor is going down.
It's miserable. And honestly, like it's been trending this way for a long time where I stayed stubborn and said like, no, I'm going to do the thing that I feel is like ethically correct and I'm going to play at a normal speed. And I just like watch hundreds and thousands of dollars get pulled out of my pocket in the process.
Yeah.
It's like this is ridiculous, and now I'm not even one of the more skilled players in the field. Like maybe 10 years ago, I might have been in the top 5 or 10% of the field, but like not anymore. I'm for sure like entering a lot of fields where I'm breaking even or maybe small loser. And then on top of that, I'm having EV stolen away from guys who are comparable to my skill set but are willing to tank 10 times as long.
You're becoming the whale.
Let me ask you guys a question. Kind of off topic, not really. So I was playing a 1K in Florida, and we were about to be in the money. We go hand for hand, and it's 15-minute levels, I think, or 20. It was short.
It's like a hyper turbo.
Yeah, it was just a turbo, and like it's like when we went hand for hand, it was 2 minutes per hand. Do we think that should be cut down? Because it's a turbo?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably like 30 seconds.
I'm not.
Well, you can't cut down that far. You still want to stay within the realm of could a hand take place in this amount of time?
Yeah, so I was talking to the floor about it, and he's like, if we were to just let it go, each hand would take longer anyway.
Well, that's obviously true, but that's because people are incentivized to let it.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
everybody remaining in the field at that point, and especially in a turbo where the chip leader might be like 25 blinds.
Yeah.
Everybody in the field, if they were all playing optimally correct, you would all be in some weird prisoner's dilemma where nobody actually took action until the event just ended.
Except for
until everybody was just like all in.
Yeah.
No, not even the chip leader, because you can't outpace the structure. Right? So you would just let the clock bleed down until everybody had 0 big blinds.
Everybody takes a knee.
And you would just chop it up like however many were left.
Yeah.
I just thought it'd be a big like unfair advantage to the guy with chips in that situation, because it's like the blinds just go up immediately. You immediately lose a level almost.
Yeah.
Or half a level or something.
I think to sort of summarize where I'm at with it is that anything that is the kind of thing that the game would be unsustainable if everybody did it. We should find ways to get rid of it from the game, because if every player tanks as long as some players do in these situations, you suddenly are in a position where the game collapses. Like the game, because there's no fun anymore at all, because you're not even doing anything. You're sitting there for long periods of time just watching people do nothing.
Right.
And half hour in between
pretend
hands.
like they have a decision. Like it's almost absurd sometimes the shit people do. They're like counting their stack 4 times, like looking at the clock 8 times. Like it's just kind of absurd. So like if you get to the point where it's not like if everybody did it, the game dies. We have to do something about it.
Yeah,
we just have to. There's no choice.
I think one of the major concerns that I have is that the people who could be making sweeping change with this type of stuff, like making policy, they're not professional poker players. And the thing that professional poker players have as an advantage here is thinking in terms of equilibrium.
Right.
If you think in terms of like how this plays out at equilibrium, everybody just stalls, not the inverse. It's not that everybody plays fast. Like this whole notion of them kind of beating us over the head of like, if you're stalling, we're going to give you a penalty. So like do right by your neighbor and just play quickly or whatever. That's not how this plays out. The equilibrium settles at everybody stalling, right? And now if you defect, you don't beat the stallers, you lose.
Right. And then the only time someone diverges from that is when they are able to accumulate enough chips that they suddenly now benefit from playing more hands.
Right.
Yeah.
And that specifically is what creates the scenario where when one player does have a big chip lead, now the rest of the field is colluding against that player as they were yesterday.
And that's the right way to frame it, I think, is frame it as like cooperative collusion.
Because that's what it is.
Agreed.
100% what it is.
Agreed. Even if it's unspoken, that's 100% what's happening.
I mean, it's kind of the same thing in regards of if blind versus blind, you jam on someone and like somehow a conversation starts like, oh, like even you should probably fold here or whatever. Like, it's good for everybody.
Yeah.
Like, that's soft collusion.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
having
yeah.
that conversation in itself.
Or like we should check it down whenever 3 people are all in or
It's
whatever.
like, oh, like, yeah, like, I'd be nice to you. I'd be nice to
Right.
you.
And
kind of
even the dynamic that developed at my table yesterday, where it was obvious that everybody was playing relatively slow, except for, to be fair, I should give credit to the guy who ended up winning it, Ben Ector, because even when he was relatively shallow, he did not slow down very much. So he was kind of not as bad as some of the others, but there was it was very obvious to me that like nobody else is going to clock anybody, right? And that's part of the soft collusion too.
Yeah.
Like
Because they're not
the fact
They're all
that
middle
incentivized to.
stacks.
right, exactly, because they all benefit from the fact that they're, that this is happening. So the idea that at some level, the existence of clocking people disincentivizes it is not true, because there are plenty of circumstances where only one player at the table is ever going to be the one who clocks somebody.
Right.
And now you put that player in the position of they're the one who gets to decide how long people get to act on their hands.
Yeah.
And that's what the spot I was in yesterday.
Yeah. And on top of that, the floor doesn't always cooperate with you
Yeah.
because you're one of many.
Right. And you're not going to be able to just say, look, hey, floor, these guys are stealing money from me. Please help me stop it. Because the floor doesn't have much incentive to actually give a shit about
Right.
who actually wins the
And
money.
like, let's look at a bigger field tournament. Let's just extrapolate out. Like, let's look at the main, and each table has its own chip leader, right? It's in their all of their best interests to clock everybody at the table to make them play
Yeah,
faster.
right.
But implement in real time, you can't.
Yeah.
There's not enough floor people to be like, oh yeah, stay here,
Right.
stay
Right.
here, stay
Have
here.
a floor person for every single table.
And then
Yeah.
if you're
Impossible.
short, like you just kind of get away with
I
shit.
mean, isn't the shot clock like? Isn't that just the answer? The simple answer?
It's
No.
not the answer, but it's a step.
Right.
It's the best thing we have right now.
Right.
Yeah.
At least like when you're down to like 3 or 4 tables, like
Yeah.
then for sure have it.
The two
Like,
major issues with the shot clock are that if you do it in a way that isn't disruptive to people who aren't accustomed to playing under a time constraint, then you give too much time. And if you don't give too much time, then you may be off-putting to Rex. And like I think that's the big dilemma that they're constantly trying to fight. I think that the best way to go about it is to have very short time extensions. So give like a dozen 15-second or
That's what I was
10-second.
gonna say.
Yeah.
Just like give people a lot of time extensions. Don't force them to put one in while they're thinking.
Right.
Just allow it to be done at the end of a hand. Like have the dealer say, you owe me 3 time extensions or you owe me 4, whatever, based on how long they took. And if you do that, I think it manages it in a way where it's like, it's not a chess clock situation, but it's close because you have a certain amount
I think
of
the
time.
action clock should be mandatory everywhere.
Yeah.
Slay Dog and I got into a big fight about this where he was saying like no one wants this, which is insane to me. The action clock.
The only people who don't want it are people who only make money through stalling.
It has to be, right? Because like, so the action clock for clarity's sake is just that you have 15 seconds to act on your hand if the pot is unopened.
Yeah.
If the pot is open, though, in any capacity, you have infinite time. Which I don't think that should be okay.
No.
I think you should just add time to the action clock.
Right.
So 15 seconds goes to 30.
Yeah.
Even
or
that's
whatever.
a ton of time, man. Like if you're playing 9-handed and it goes open, like you start from under the gun 9 and get to the button, that's like 3 minutes.
Yeah,
That's
it
if
is.
every single person.
Which they
That's if
uses-
every single person
uses
But if
it,
they're folding,
the
that's
whole
not the
thing.
case. And you have to remember there will be ICM situations where you don't want to be put under a 15-second time constraint.
Sure, but you just get extra time slots. Like I would say have 10 seconds pre and have like 20 time extensions.
Yeah, fine.
So if
That's
you,
fine,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? So it's like, sure, if you all want to take 10 seconds, it takes a minute.
I agree. I think that's something about, but the big point is that the action clock is separate from the what do we call it? The time bank or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
like on WSOP, you get like 10 seconds pre and then it
But you're talking
activates
about
time bank.
Yeah, but you're talking about online. We're talking about live. Live's a lot more difficult to execute. So the action clock live is a separate thing from when they introduce the time banks.
I just mean in the sense of why we allow more time for these live poker decisions and like online. It's like, we don't care.
Because it's harder to exexecute. That's,
Yeah, and
it's
it
simply
also
it.
it also just puts pressure on the dealers as well. I think
Right.
something that I became aware of over the course of the last couple of days is there are a lot of dealers. There was like one dealer who was trying to enforce rules wrong. Like she was enforcing the rules about talking during a hand completely wrong. And she was new, and she'd misinterpreted what she'd been told about the rule about what you can and can't say during a hand. And of course, like, we were patient with her and everything. We explained to her what it was and called the floor and all this stuff. But like, if you are asking a dealer who's only been dealing poker for 2 weeks to start implementing shot clocks, they're going to get it wrong.
Yeah.
They're going to fuck things up.
Especially in the WSOP.
So like, you have to make it simple enough that a dealer that is new can do it pretty smoothly and pretty easily. Because otherwise you're just going to introduce a whole bunch of different problems.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying with the executable stuff, but at the same time, like, let's not even look at pre-flop stuff or like a clock where someone says, oh, I got this big decision for my tournament life. This happens online all the time too. But like, we give 8 minutes in some spots live, but online they don't give you a time bank.
Again, it's your argument semantics. Like, online it's very easy. You can automate this stuff.
What do you mean? Like, just
It's
say hands
automated.
dead?
It's in the software.
It's in the software. It's automated. You just can't automate it live.
I don't even mean automate, but like, if someone takes 5 minutes, like, it's clearly
Okay, yeah, you can clock people more, but clearly this system is very broken.
Yeah, so how do you fix it?
Well,
But I don't think it's action clock in some. I think it is in some spots, but not in other spots. Because then let's say you say 10 seconds pre with extra time, and then you say 30 seconds post. Every node, if it goes check, bet, call, check.
Yeah, I agree. That's why
it can literally get to 5 minutes.
Right. That's why we said the clock is a start.
Yeah.
It's a step in the right direction, but it's certainly not ideal.
There's going to be a combination of different solutions because even like
the best solution is removing time. Right? Like,
just make it number of hands.
Yeah.
Like that. Ultimately, just if you completely remove the idea that playing less hands, playing fewer hands, to having fewer hands happen at the table, if you completely remove that as an advantage,
you have to play this amount of hands for this level. That's it.
Right. It's just about creating an incentive to just play the hand as it is and not allow it to take longer.
Well, the reason why you win money is because you're trying to play as little hands as possible, not try to play the amount of hands you need to play.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And it's just like the other thing that I thought of a couple of minutes ago when you said about you can't like call clock on every single person is like what now happens is let's say I as the chip leader was clocking every single person as soon as the action was on them. Eventually, I'm going to get punished for that.
right.
Eventually, the floor is going to go, you can't do this.
Yep.
So now the floor is actively saying it's okay for these guys to steal money from me by tanking because I'm going to get punished if I call them out on it. Like, it just, you create so many dynamics where the players who actually have chips and who play well and who accumulate big chip leads and who run good, like, that gets punished.
Yeah, the system's also just like very slow, right?
Yeah.
Like, the floor has to cooperate with you and has to do so in a timely manner. Oftentimes, you'll give a minute courtesy, then you'll call the floor, which will take a minute.
Yep.
And then the floor will come over and give a speech, which will take a minute. And then they'll count them down from a minute.
Didn't the floor get mad at you for clocking people in a tournament?
This has happened to me many times. It happened to me last year in the 2500. She literally walked away from me when I said this guy's abusing the clock on the bubble. She didn't give a fuck. It was the end of the day. They're like, we're trying to get bags out. Like, I don't care. I'm like, I do care a lot. And like, it happened to me, a few years ago in the main event. I told the story where Alex Keating was at my table, and I came back late from dinner, and he had convinced the entire table to collude against me to stall their way into the money. We were 200 out of the money. We were 3 levels away from cashing. No one played a fucking hand for 3 levels. I just sat there and watched everybody tank act. Yeah. And I kept calling the clock over. Alex was right to my right. I think it was Bob at the time. I was like, clock and don't leave. And he just kind of chuckled and like walked away. And it's like, okay, fuck me, I guess. Like, everyone's in cahoots.
It's a huge difference. Like, if it is like the main event bubble, which is always a big bubble, right? And it's just like you have one table and they play 4 hands in 2 hours, and you have another table who's playing lightning fast. Now, if you're stuck at the table playing lightning fast and you're short, you're just
right. You're fucked.
You're fucked, and you're at a disadvantage. I remember, like, this happened.
This was the easiest thing for him to convince too, because. Because at this table, we had we might have had one of the softest tables in the room, but I direct position on Alex, so it's not soft for him, right? And I have all the chips.
He's having a bad time.
So we literally have 7 amateurs, and he's just like, "Hey guys, you want to guarantee cash?" And they're like, "Fuck yeah, this is my first World Series."
The last time I cashed the main event, I remember like we bagged up as soon as you cash, you bag day 3, and then you go
Yeah.
home. And we were bagging up. We're walking out, and the guy, I was just talking to some random guy at another table. He goes, "We played 4 hands in 2 hours." He's like, he was like, "It was great. We were all short, and we all just knew to just stall." He goes, "We played 4 hands in 2 hours."
Wow.
It's
There's
crazy. And I was like, my table was playing lightning fast. I had to fold queens to get in the money.
Here's
Jesus.
a prediction for this year. I think somewhere at the main event this year, there's going to be somebody who becomes a villain by doing something egregious and just not caring. Like there's going to be some instance where maybe not on the bubble, maybe like when they're deep or something. Like a few years ago, there was a guy at the final table who was taking way too long over every single decision. But like it's getting to the point now where there's enough people out there who just don't care about the negative consequences of what they're doing, that something's going to happen where some guy's going to like have 1 chip behind in the main on a pay jump and wait 20 minutes, or like some stupid thing is going to happen, because we're just at that point where like it's unavoidable now, that it's becoming such a sort of epidemic that eventually we're going to have high profile situations that are like on a live stream and someone's just doing something that's just embarrassing for the game.
For the 25K heads up, I think the WPT, like the online version that they had, I'm pretty sure that they just did levels or number of hands for their levels.
Yeah,
but they're playing online.
Yeah, but like it just worked. So I'm not saying.
No, I get it.
You see what I'm saying? Like the number of hands works because everyone is now effectively playing the same static game.
Right. Yeah.
Otherwise, it's 2 hands here, 8 hands here.
It might not be the perfect solution, but like try it. Somebody try it somewhere. Somebody just run one fucking tournament where we do it number of hands instead of time and see how it goes. You know.
And it's like, people play this game, they want to make money. So it's like, it sucks, but you almost can't fault them for like, they have a financial incentive to tank. Right. It's just like, oh yeah,
I don't
it
know,
sucks.
man. I fucking fault them. I understand what you're saying. You're right. You're
like,
obviously right.
But if you don't make that rule, if you just keep it where it's a financial incentive to tank, then people are gonna do it because people want to make money.
This is how any competitive environment works. Like if the rules allow for somebody to gain an advantage by doing a certain thing and they won't get punished for it, they will do it. It's true across sports. It's true across everything. Like you can't just rely on people to like.
And the more people that become aware of it, the more.
This is actually very comparable to the issue in soccer that they're trying to do a better job of. The flopping.
100%. I mean, it's not even just that. It's the way that the clock is managed in soccer. Like, don't even get me started on that, because that's like absurd. Really, you know, and they just have, in the last couple of years, they've made improvements to it, but they don't go anywhere near far enough. Like, they need to stop the clock when the ball's out of play, and it would make the game much more watchable. But it'll be, I would estimate it'll be 10 years at least, because people are traditionalists in soccer, and it'll take a long time.
Traditionalism is a big part of it, and I also think people don't want to be the ones to stick their neck out and try something new and have it fail, right? Like, to be the TD that introduces the tournament that goes number of hands, and then you have recreationals who end up with an hour-long break because the table was slow. Like, I don't know if you've ever played any of the WSOP shootouts, but they used to do for the big field ones, like the 1500s. They would do 2 shootouts in the same day. So you would win your first table, and then you would have to come back, similar to what they do with the heads up.
I love the heads up.
And there was just no way to know how long it was going to take. So you would just kind of be like meandering around. If you want your table fast, you would kind of like meander for like 4 or 5 hours sometimes.
Yeah, that's not ideal, but it at least that we now flip it around where everybody has the incentive to be finishing faster, right? Because you don't want there to be a circumstance where your table takes so much longer and you're the one who's holding up everybody else.
Right, of course. Yeah.
It flips around the social dynamic of now, instead of everybody else is waiting for you, you don't want that. You don't want like to be the one that is responsible for the other 1,000 players in the field having to wait an extra hour. You know?
There's also just there's less incentive just in general. Right. It's like, why would you want to tank now?
Yeah. I mean, people, they want to feel like they're making good decisions, but outside of that,
well, sure, but like at that point, you just have the action clock and shot clocks, and everyone has their fixed amount of time. You play a certain amount of number of hands per level, and then you see where that goes.
I think that hybrid idea is probably the best, where you're still putting them on the clock while forcing them to play X amount of hands.
Shot clock plus hands per level. Somebody do it, please.
Burke, you tanked your way into a bag last night, didn't you?
I was gambling. So this
I love seeing your hand
also an
history.
issue,
Not
right,
that this
with-
was supposed to
with some
be
rule
a shit on
changes.
WSOP day, but this is the third thing in a row that like they're not doing well.
Secret.
So it was a secret bounty, but the only secret was what the structure actually
Yeah,
is.
that's what I heard. What is the difference between a secret bounty and a mystery
Well,
bounty?
I can answer this because I
There's
figured it
actual
out.
difference?
What it is they didn't know how much the bounties were going to be because they
Correct.
weren't sure how many entrants they were going to
Ah,
get.
so
They
they
didn't
just
want to
called it-
guarantee a certain bounty,
Yeah.
so they called it a secret because the secret is we don't know what we're going to actually get in terms of a field.
I think
not
that's
just field
fine.
size. It's
It
not
was
even just field
huge.
size. It's not even just field size. The secret is they don't know how many bounties they were going to pay. So
Right.
with the mystery bounty, they're paying exactly 5% of the field.
Right.
And they'll have that bounty prize pool for that.
Yeah.
For ours, I actually still don't know. They said that we were going to play 15 levels as on the structure sheet. Then they said we were going to play 16 levels. Then they said we were going to play down to the money. Then they said we were going to play 16 levels again, and then ultimately we ended up bagging after 15 as was written on the structure sheet. So now, according to the structure sheet, bounties are supposed to be in play today. If that's true, 30% of the field then will become a bounty, as
That's a
opposed to
lot.
it's
That's
a lot.
wild. That's totally different. For
Correct.
the mystery millions,
Right.
5%. That's
Right.
wow. Holy shit. That's
Yeah,
So are you don't know if you're going back with bounties in play or not?
no
yet?
fucking
Do you
clue.
have any shorter stacks at your table?
I have no clue. I haven't even looked at my table draw yet. But I have no clue what we're going back to, and that was brutal for the hand for hand last night at the end of the night because I have 9 big blinds.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm coming back to a bounty tomorrow, which makes these 9 big blinds worth infinite, or if I'm going to be 15% of the field away from being eligible for bounty, in which case I'm going to take a close spot.
I will say the only not positive but positive is that everybody doesn't know together.
That's true. That is
You know
very
what I mean?
all a secret.
It's not like anybody has extra inside info.
There was. I will say though, like they fucked us doing it the way that they did by constantly making these announcements because it alters the strategy, right? So
It's the paranoia factor.
I literally text Landon. I'm dead tired. I've been playing since like 10 a.m. and I go, we're playing till the money now. This is brutal. We're not going to get out until like 3 a.m. And I have like at the time I had like 20 blinds or something like that. And I opened King 7 suited from the hijack, and the small blind jams for like 8.5 blinds or 9 blinds, something like that. And I'm just like, okay, well, we're still 15% away. Like this is a clear call. No big deal. Whatever I call. And I outflop ace 9, and then ultimately he rivers me and I lose. 2 minutes later, literally 2 hands later, they go, just kidding, we're playing till the end of this level and then we're bagging bounties may be in play tomorrow. It's like, I would have fucking folded. That's like an extra 7 blinds for me the next day.
Yeah,
like
you
I would have just
can't-
clearly folded.
You can't have like because it does influence decisions. It does influence strategy. Like you especially in a bounty, like you can't have the structure not be clarified in advance. It's just completely absurd.
It is funny how they like this stuff happened, but we have yet to get to the trying number of hands thing, which like seems very
Right.
reasonable. It's like, you know what? Let's just try a very reasonable, thought out idea versus, all right, it's secret time.
Yeah.
It is a secret.
I will say throwing secret in the title does make this
It's very interesting.
totally justifiable.
I will say though,
They knew what they were
I
doing.
thought that secret bounty meant everybody had like a bounty envelope and nobody knew what theirs was.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
if
That
you
would be
bust
cool.
them, like
That would
you
be
get a
kinda
certain
cool.
amount of, you get a
Yeah,
certain
yeah.
bounty and no one knows.
That'd be cool,
Yeah.
but you could game it.
How?
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, there's just ways you could game it.
Yeah.
Like you could just open the envelope yourself. Who knows?
Like no, they don't give you one. Like it's just assigned to you. You don't get anything you can actually open or whatever. There's
Well, it's the same thing as mystery bounty at that point.
that's
secret bounty.
That's
Literally the same.
Pretty huge turnout for it too, right?
Yeah, just over 500 people.
People
Wow.
love
Absurd,
secrecy.
dude. That's pretty absurd.
They announced. They go. Well, at least the structure sheet was one thing. This is a big secret. What's going to happen tomorrow?
This is honestly, this is a tournament I would love to be a fucking like announcer or TD
Yeah,
for. This
maybe
is fucking me
just
all over
trolling.
it.
Maybe
People, memeing
maybe they
other
have to
people.
do more secret tournaments, like secret payouts,
Yeah.
secret
Yeah.
bubble. Just, everything's a secret. You enter,
I
you don't know what the
don't trust
buy-in
this
is.
shit.
Maybe the actual
Surprise, it's
secrecy.
winner take all.
Yeah, maybe the actual secrecy is what you get paid for busting. So like
Yeah.
instead of first place being 700,000 and de-escalating payouts from there, it's just like
17th
You
million.
finish at 41st, you pull an envelope. Oh look, first place money. Fuck you guys.
That would actually be pretty cool.
Enjoy playing the rest of the event, boys. I'm going home.
That would be very, very interesting to have a structure where, like, when you bust, you get a certain amount of, like...
It's just a random payout.
It's a random payout, but the longer you're in the tournament, the more envelopes you get.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh,
okay,
yeah,
You
that's
see what I'm
cool.
saying? It's like, if you last the whole tournament, it doesn't mean you're guaranteed first place money,
Yeah.
Right,
but you
right.
get, like, the biggest chance to
Yeah.
get first
Yeah.
place.
That's actually pretty cool.
That would call it
they've
super
done-
secret.
They've done they've done variations of like random stuff like that. They used to do it on PokerStars. They used to do it on April Fool's Day. So I remember, but this was like 2010, 2011 sort of time. They used to do a day where like all of the tech guys who manage the software would get to create a tournament that was just a stupid structure. Like they had one where it was like the blind levels would go backwards. They had one where the payouts would be randomized, so like 28th place would get the most money. Like
That'd be sick.
And they would all be like $10 buy-ins, so they would just be like meme tournaments basically. But it was always really fun because you'd get to. They had one where it was like all the blinds ended in 8. So it was like it started at 8 and 8 with an 8 ante, and then it went to
remember
88
that.
and 88 with
Yeah.
an 88 ante and shit like that. And it was just like these meme
I
tournaments.
kind of love
were-
this idea. Listen, hear me out on this, okay?
Let him cook. Let him cook.
Okay, so you play a tournament, you play down to 10%, just like it's a satellite, right? Once you make the money, everybody quits. It doesn't matter how many chips you have, right? Everybody just quits. And the only thing that your chips matter for is in rank order of like first to the last person, you get to choose your envelope. Right? So you get to, so it benefits you now to be the chip leader because you're pulling from the entire pool. Or maybe it doesn't. I don't fucking know, but it's all randomized,
Yeah.
right? So it's a true payout structure. Like, you know, say 40 people cash. It's 1 through 40, where first place is, you know, 10% of the prize pool or whatever, and 40th is like, you know, 0.1%, whatever. But everybody just goes and randomly chooses what position they finish in.
That would be
There's
wild.
another one. I was talking with Roman Lewis at my table in one of the events the other day, and we said they should do a mystery bounty, and then after the mystery bounty tournament ends, you do deal or no deal for the envelopes.
yeah.
Like
Yeah,
you just
something
have
similar
like
like
a
that. I like
whole.
that.
You have like a TD who's doing the like making you an offer for your envelope and shit like that. Like you just combine a tournament and deal or no deal.
Meanwhile, here we are. We can't get fucking stalling to stop, but we're expecting them to run a Howie Mandel version of Deal or No Deal in the
A
mystery
super
bounty.
spicy secret tournament.
Deal.
I would love to be the Howie Mandel of this. Look, you could take
man.
this, or you could go fuck yourself.
I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor. I didn't get a chance to work it in throughout the course of the show, but WPT Global, big shout out to them. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the show. If you guys are in a qualifying territory, be sure you click the link in the description below or hit hashtag WPT Global in the chat. Use sign up code Berkey to get a deposit bonus up to $1,200. That's just free money for all of you guys out there. Hunt, congratulations on your deep run.
Thank you.
I'm sorry to see it fall out in
There'll be
seventh.
many more.
Hey, we'll get them next time.
But I will say it was a smaller buy-in, so if you're going to run deeper in something, make it a little bit bigger so Burke can get a taste.
All right. All right. Well, I'll try and do it. I'll try and do it in the main.
Yeah, like let's run deep in the main, maybe in one of these 5Ks. This is something where I can get a little 10 ball, you
You know what? I didn't swap with Landon. I should have swapped with Landon. Then
I
I would have
said
won.
this. I fucked up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Should have said just 10 in line.
I know, right?
Yeah, he is the swap god.
You would have won if he was swapped.
You would
I know.
have at
I
least
absolutely
fourth
would.
Did you
place.
swap with them in PCA?
The
did.
PSPC? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
I wouldn't have gone deep if I didn't.
At least fourth place for
You gotta
sure.
pay, you know, you gotta pay.
Had
Yeah.
you done the swap. I got to get out of here. I have 9 big blinds and a dream.
Go run it up.
And if that doesn't work out, then I'm playing the Tropicana stream tonight at 6. So
What's your secret?
I don't know. I don't know yet. My secret is I'm keeping Chauncey.
Yep.
Marley just doesn't know it yet. We'll be back tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Pacific. We are going to be giving away the partnership with me in the
right.
tag team event. I'm going to teach you all about stalling and how to make us money. Be sure to come prepared with trivia on me. These guys are going to write up some questions for you. We'll be giving that away sometime midway through the show. Hunt, thanks again for joining us. We'll see you guys all in the morning.
Later, squad.
Peace.
Later.